What we're going to be doing here today is loading 45 Colt gallery loads with black powder. A gallery load is a reduced charge, reduced recoil load. From my understanding, they came about in the late 19th century for target shooting indoors. The 45 Colt gallery load typically would use a round ball. I've used round ball to load these before. The problem is a round ball is not lubricated, and I would wind up scraping black powder lube inside the brass before I seated the ball in order to get the lubrication. It adds a step, it's more time consuming. Since then I found these. These little things are what are called El Paso Pete Ultra Gamers, or EPP Ultra Gamers. They weigh 150 grains, they're slightly heavier than a round ball, and they have a lube groove, and they are pre-lubed with black powder lubricant. I get them from dashcaliber.com. They work really good. We're going to be using 20 grains of GoX 3F powder. We're going to be using a Lee single stage press. As you can see, before you start making fun of my loading bench, I'm in an RV. This 2x4 with this press and powder measure and the brass trimmer on it can be bolted down with a C-clamp to any table. Whether it's a picnic table or inside, doesn't matter. So it can go with me. Makes it very easy to load any type of cartridge that I want to load. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to decap and reprime our brass. I'm not resizing this brass. I have an RCBS decapping die here. All I'm doing is popping the old primers, put new ones in. When you're loading 45 Colt, especially with black powder, it's not a good idea to resize the brass. You'll wind up with a lot of blowback in the cylinder when the round goes off, and it'll cause fouling. If you don't resize, you can shoot a lot more before you got to pull that cylinder out, wipe it down and clean it. Okay, now we've got everything decapped and reprimed, we're going to change dies. We're going to put a powder through expander die in. We're not going to use this to pour powder through, but we are going to use the expander part of it just to give the case mouth a little bit of a flare. Once that's done, we'll dispense powder directly out of the powder measure, which is preset to 20 grains. And we're going to take a 60 thousandths thick veggie wad. That's going to go right on the top of the case mouth. And we're going to use that handy tool just to push it down. About 3 to 5 pounds of pressure. Now, if you load smokeless cartridges, pouring directly out of the powder measure like this probably would make you nervous. Keep in mind the pressures of black powder are much lower. If we're off by 1 grain on black powder, it's not that big of a deal. If you're off by 1 grain on smokeless powder, depending on the gun and the cartridge, that can be a very big deal. Okay, this is where things get a little bit more complicated than smokeless powder loading. Since we didn't fill these up completely with powder, we need to have something to take up the airspace. You can't have any airspace. This is cornmeal. All I'm going to do is just fill that up with cornmeal right up to the rim. Then we're going to stick it in here. This is a Montana Precision compression die. On the bottom of this stem is a plunger. Looks like that. This is set to compress it to the exact depth that I want it for seating a bullet. Just stick it in there, press it down, lo and behold, there you go. Our brass now has the cornmeal in it. It's compressed to the proper depth. All we have to do is seat the bullets. The nice part about it is when you don't resize the brass, as you just saw, you can thumb seat these things. Stick them in the press, give her just a little bit of a crimp. So there you have it. That's the loading process for 45 Colt gallery loads. I fire these out of a Colt single action Army, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't be fired out of a lever gun that was chambered in 45 Colt. That's all there is to it. Now let's go out and see if they can hit anything. Okay, we're going to take those Colt 45 gallery loads that we loaded up earlier, and we're going to fire them out of this little thing. It's a Colt single action army reproduction made by Dakota in the 1980s. Some people refer to it as a buntline special. Has a 12-inch barrel. Extremely accurate. We're going to be firing at a target approximately 30 yards away. That's it. As you can see, even with only 20 grains of powder in these things, they make a lot of smoke. But the recoil is extremely low. They're a lot of fun to shoot, very accurate. There's the results. 45 Colt gallery loads, 30 yards.